Hey guys, welcome back. Reese here, Pursuing Out the Arts, and I am continuing our coverage here at Arnie Coates Armored Symposium. So today I've got Tobias Capwell. Tobias Capwell has traveled here from the UK to give us a lecture covering the event, and he actually took part of the event as well. So,
Yeah. It's kind of hard not to get involved. I didn't bring my armor, and now I regret that I didn't. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I mean, Arnie said, "I'm having an event. Come give us a lecture." So I said, "Okay," but I didn't actually know very much about what the event actually was. And it's the first one. He hasn't had one before, so it was kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
But the next one, I'll bring my armor, I think.
Awesome.
So I came to do the lecture. I talked about the design of armor and how armor in the 15th century can be weighted towards different forms of combat depending on what you expect to be doing in it. You can design it in subtly different ways to be optimized for what you expect to be doing. To give yourself the most advantage in your equipment and make sure that your equipment isn't working against you. You got to fight your enemy. You can't be fighting your own equipment as well.
Right.
So what's the best way to iron all of that out?
Or find a happy medium.
Right. Or you just have to compromise.
Yeah.
If you have to do lots of things in it, then it's not going to do any one thing absolutely perfectly. So do you want to do one thing perfectly or lots of things reasonably well?
Which is interesting when we're, us as practitioners, we're studying the effect books, the treatises. They're usually discussing, it shows situations where they're doing judicial duels.
Yeah.
So you may, for all you know, it's an armor specifically made for judicial duels, not for war.
Yeah, and there are documents that describe how you should arm yourself specifically for that situation. And so when you're reading it, you have to be a little bit careful about how more widely do you apply what they say in that document. They're not talking about armor for war. There might be some crossover, but you just got to be a bit careful.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, since we're here, I mean, Arna's doing, poleaxe fighting, and he's doing it without armor. So I'm in there. I'll do it. It was fun. It's been really fun, and I'd like to do the armored stuff as well. So if it happens again next year, I'll bring my armor.
Awesome. Then I will be here. So, and hopefully then.
Yeah. Has Arno confirmed that he's going to do one next year?
I haven't talked to him yet. It sounds like it. So I think this is so far it's been a good success in my eyes. So it's bringing all these people together to who study harness fecting and armor and whatnot, and bring them together to create sort of that community. Here. So.
It's just cool to see, like, what is it? There's got to be 30 people in full plate armor.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't get to see that very often.
No.
I mean, in a joust, you're lucky if you've got 4 guys in armor.
Right.
And to see 30, it's just fun. It's fun and interesting, and you see a lot of different variations in the equipment. People they have basically the same armor, but they set it up in a few different ways. It's just for the practicalities of using armor effectively. It's a great event.
For studying harness fecting techniques as a practitioner, it's interesting seeing such variety of armors. So, because it's all very tactically different.
And time period.
Yeah.
There are a few people that've got 14th century things, early 15th century, late 15th century. There's no 16th century. No, but not many people do that yet. But let's encourage people to do it.
Yes, do that.
Because it's cool.
There's actually a gentleman, Ed Borsky. I apologize if I got your name wrong, Ed, but he has a 16th century.
Ed Borsky, yeah. I've talked to him.
Yeah, Jeff Lawson made his kit.
Based on one in the Wallace.
This is an awesome event to attend. I encourage everyone to, if we do it next year, hopefully it's the case, to check it out. We had several people who did not have armor who came out to try it out, and
there's a lot of training that people are doing without armor, the wrestling and the dagger fighting and the poleaxe. Lots of poleaxe techniques. Better to learn it without the armor first. I got a lot out of it, and I only did that one session. Few new techniques. I'll file those away.
More tools in the toolbox.
Right.
Awesome.
And it's just nice to have a sense of where the community is, and and who's doing what and who's interested in what. And nice to see there was still a lot of interest in my English armor stuff. You know, I can't anticipate that, you know, people at a German seminar will have any interest in what the English are doing with the armor, but it's nice to see the interest. And I'm still working on the second book, so it's also good to get people's feedback and you know, questions about, is this going to be in the book, and are you going to talk about this or that, and say, yes.
Yes, sure, of course. I thought
I covered that. I'll just excuse me.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I'll steal that. So if there is another one this time next year, I will do my absolute utmost to make sure the next book is out for that. Because I mean, to do it, you see who's here. It'd be daft if I didn't bring a crate load of books along.
Right.
Because it's still a heavy, thick book. It's hard, you know. On top of the cost to transport it, gets expensive. So I quite like bringing books to events because it makes it that little bit more affordable. And
right. It's more personal.
Yeah, it's nice to know who your readers are.
Yeah.
If it gets ordered on the internet, it's great and everything, but I don't know where the books go, and I don't know what people are getting out of it. I like to see occasionally from the first book, getting the feedback from it's important in the form of people going out and building armors from the book. You suddenly see armors getting built in the 1430s English style or whatever, and I feel pretty sure that my book has a hand in that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are interested in effigies long before I came along, and people were building armors of all periods, but I tried to put all the evidence in one place.
Yeah, and I love the book. I love that how in the beginning you talked about sort of the, lack of a better word, the English doctrine of warfare compared to like the Italians.
Yeah.
So you know, the Italians like to prefer to fight on horseback, and the English like to fight on foot. So you don't see the asymmetrical pauldrons or whatnot.
And that comes back to, you know, as an armor user, being very clear about what are you going to be doing in this, and what do you need to get out of your armor, because you can prioritize protection, you can prioritize mobility, but those two properties are inversely proportional. And a lot of times the armor design is not going to be a balance. It's going to favor one or the other. And you make calculated sacrifices in either protection or mobility for the sake of improving the other. But I think that's one of the most interesting things in the armor design. What are they prepared to sacrifice? And what are they gaining by doing so?
Right.
How much mobility can they give up because they're afraid of getting shot with firearms or crossbows or lances or whatever?
I with my harness, I've got sort of floating articulation with my knees and my elbows. And now, from studying the effect books, such as Gladiatoria, there's loads and loads of techniques that are designed to blow out your knee and break your elbow and throw you in the ground and throw you on your neck and stuff. So now I'm really contemplating, you know, going forward, you know, should I really have floating? Probably not. I should probably try to protect that, you know, a bit better.
And then as armor develops in the very late 15th century, and certainly by the first quarter of the 16th century, you see more things like that, like the on Flemish and then Augsburg garnitures of the early 16th century, they have a flange on the back of the elbow to prevent hyperextension. Because even with an articulated, you know, joint on the armor that's designed to stop straight, you could force that through and break someone's elbow.
Yeah.
But so they put this guard flange that locks it, and you could not break someone's elbow in that. And that doesn't appear until later, but you can see that they were concerned about that.
Right. Yeah. We did a video a while back. Ben has Kerberg S18. A harness, and I've got mine. Mine's floating, his is articulated, and we're going through some techniques that call for blowing out breaking the elbow, and his articulation, I can, you know, it does a great job, but I can still, with enough force, do it.
Yeah. But again, the floating elbows and knees have advantages because you get twisting movement, you've got a lot freer movement in all directions. You can see why people would be willing to
sacrifice
give up the protection
yeah.
for the sake of that movement.
Mhm.
My new armor's got floating German elbows because of that. Because for everything I'm doing, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to try and break my elbow most of the time. And if it was
Well, you're
heading
new-
that way, I should do something
Yeah,
about
you're
it.
new to you're new to harness fetching, so
Yeah,
there's actually quite a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only involved in it in a limited way because I don't have a lot of time to train, and work at the museum takes up a lot of time, and trying to write books and everything else.
If only there's
So-
some place that showed videos of techniques and broke it
Yeah,
down.
yeah, and like talked about it. And,
Yeah,
yeah, I need like a website that puts videos up for people to watch.
YouTube or something.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we should do, Ben and I should do something about that.
yeah, good idea. Well, we're in the 15th century, so we don't know what might happen in the future
Right.
of the 16th century. Yeah.
Wait, you have a new book out now.
Yeah, well, I just I wrote a little book recently for the Royal Armories, which is one of their series of white cover guidebooks to the collection. It's a really cool little series because the Armories collection is so big. You could never write a concise guidebook to the whole collection. It's like completely impossible.
Right.
So what they've done instead, very clever, is to just break it down into more specific subject areas. Do one on Indian arms and armor, do one on Islamic, and then in Europe, which is a big part of the collection, to split it down further. Here's stuff on war. Here's something on the Elizabethans, Henry VIII. There's lots of them.
Right.
And I had for a long time been working on one about jousting equipment, and I wanted to talk about jousting specifically because I really want to emphasize the distinction between jousts and tournaments, and just for modern usage, so that in the terminology we're clear about what we're talking about.
Right.
To take a highly specialized jousting armor and call it a tournament armor, maybe isn't completely inaccurate.
Right.
But it's just not as specific as you could be, and it doesn't help people who don't know very much about it understand it.
Yeah, they don't have a background.
So I wanted to, and I was looking at the Royal Armouries collection. They have so much fabulous jousting armor, specifically. Never mind tournaments and foot combats and everything else. Just the joust. 2 horses and 2 riders crashing into each other. That's what we're talking about, with lances. And the Armories has so much good stuff. They have some of the earliest specialized jousting armor from the 14th century. They have good stuff all the way through the 15th and 16th and 17th centuries. And I just thought, from one collection, this is the only collection really where you could tell the whole story with one museum collection. And, obviously throwing bits and pieces of other things in there.
Sure.
And I thought that was a good opportunity to make several different basic points about the subject and explore a part of the collection in a more specific way. So that's just it's one of the little books, and but I'm still quite proud of it. And for people interested in jousting now as practitioners, there's still not very much you can sit down and read that'll give you the basic nuts and bolts of the history of the joust and how it developed and what it was about.
Right.
People need, if you want to practice it, people need to know their history.
Right.
So I thought, as well as writing the guidebook, maybe I can do something to fill that gap and to write, just a basic reference work for the real basic beats of the subject. So I tried to do that as well.
Yeah.
And then I've got a number of big articles coming out about the Friedal and jousting in the court of Maximilian. That's being published by the Vienna Museum's yearbook next year. It's because next year is the anniversary of the death of the Emperor Maximilian in 1519. So there's there's a big exhibition of Maximilian arms and armor and chivalry and all of that at the Met in New York. That's coming up next year.
Oh, I don't know. I need to go to that.
That's one to watch out for,
Yeah.
definitely. They've got a lot of loans of Maximilian jousting and tournament equipment from all over the place. It's going to be, in America, a major event for the community.
And you'll be there?
I'm going to be there at some point. I'll go and see it, absolutely. And, maybe there'll be an opening or something, I don't know. But I've written a couple of other big articles on tournaments and on specific pieces. I've I've written up the jousting helm of Henry V at Westminster Abbey, which is part of another thing in progress. Sometimes things stay in progress for a long time, and you never know quite when they're coming out.
Yeah.
Kind of like my next book on English armor.
Yeah.
I think on another YouTube video from like 3 years ago, I was asked when is it coming out, and I said maybe 2016, 17, 18 at the latest, but definitely not in 2019. And now it looks like it'll probably come out in 2019. I would really like to bring it to the event here next year if I could.
That'd be great. I'll be sure to leave room for my bag for one.
It's gonna be around 2.8 to 3 kilos. The next one is gonna be probably a bit bigger than the first one.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'd like to write light books that are easy to hold and easy to put in a bag and easy to ship, but sometimes the needs of the work are substantial. And a good armor book should be thick enough to be used as armor if necessary, right?
Yeah.
And it should be thick enough to be used as a weapon if necessary.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's the definition of a good arms and armor book.
Yeah.
What would you call that? Buchenfechten or something? Fechten?
Yeah.
Buchenfechten.
Yeah. I'm sure
Fighting with books.
I'm sure we can document that somewhere in that book. We gotta have it to where you're wrong. So I followed your work for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Always really enjoyed what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's a huge part of the community, our sort of community, living history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and what I've always admired about you is that, you know, for you to understand armor, you do it.
Yeah.
You know, you get it all put together, built,
Mm-hmm.
and you joust, you
Mm-hmm.
fight on foot, and all that, and then you learn more about that than you would by looking at it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I was a practitioner before I was, an academic. I was, I wanted to be a knight before I wanted to be a curator in a museum.
Right.
I did try and get a job at the Met when I was 13. So it was in my mind. But it was because of the practitioner wanting to fight, wear armor element. That came first. I wasn't a curator who thought, I need to wear armor. I was an armor wearer who got a job.
Yeah.
That's basically it. That's the truth of it.
Well, you got the coolest job.
Yeah. I'm very lucky. The whole story is an improbable tale of some remarkable luck, apart from anything else. I mean, you gotta make the most of your luck when it comes along, obviously. But you end up where you end up, and you do what you can.
Yeah. So, yes, thank you very much for coming. Really enjoyed your lecture.
Oh, thanks.
Really
Yeah,
enjoy your
it's fun.
work. Keep doing what you're doing. I'll buy all of them. So,
Good, thank you.
And
Thank you.
but yeah, if you guys have any questions down below, comment them. Be sure to like the video, share the video with your friends, and hopefully next year we can get Ben out here, and Tobias will have his new book.
Yeah.
And we could buy it and
Yes.
further nerd out with him. So, as always, guys, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.
See ya.